know what the deal is with this. Then I met you.
Oh. Oh my god. If you get it.
The bomb? Which are you referring
So
to?
I'm not actually interested in the bomb. I'm not interested in the bomb because I feel like what I have works pretty well and I don't wear a ton of makeup.
Yeah, but that's
like,
not the only reason to use a...
To do a double cleanse?
Yeah.
That's actually the only time I do a double cleanse.
I don't do it every single time, all the time, but I do it. But that's because I love the balm or oil or whatever stuff that I have.
Yeah, what do you use?
Hand skin.
Right.
Like Rennie bought it.
Really?
Yeah. After using it. Yeah.
Okay. That Then I Met You was supposed to, like, people really like it.
Which one?
The balm.
Oh, sorry.
People really like it.
Yes, they do.
I've also actually heard really good things about the pharmacy one. That's the other one that I would want to try.
I am quite happy with that part of my thing.
But the Then I Met You line,
I
don't know why I'm so drawn to it.
Really?
I know it's the creator of So Glam or whatever, the CEO or something.
That Alicia Yoon lady?
Oh, yeah. Maybe
Or
it's just really good
Alicia
marketing. I don't know why. I want their, like, serum or something. I want to try other stuff.
Oh. I don't know how many things with those I've actually seen.
It's like a very new... I don't think there's many items so far.
I mean, there's plenty of information about...
It's been rolling out.
The bomb. I mean, there were plenty... There's like...
Yeah. I think it started off just with cleansers, and then she rolled out, I think, a serum, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a moisturizer as well.
Interesting.
It's a little out of my price range.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was... which doesn't say anything, but I didn't realize.
Like $40 for a...
For a
cleansing balm, I think is...
Right?
For me, that's a lot.
No, is that really what it is?
I think so, yeah. Oh, that's what you're saying, really, too.
Yeah.
You're like, really? Just
what?
cough it up.
Yeah.
Then I Met You cleansing balm. Yeah, $38.
Yeah, no.
That's a lot.
No.
It's a lot to get your face cleaned.
No. And why do people even like it? Because the hand skin one has like... there are different types, and it has like a function.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a pore. I don't know. It doesn't mean your pores. And whatever it says, it does.
It does.
Yes.
It shrinks them.
And it's got a different thing that's like... that it's not makeup related. It's like a different... So what... I mean, I can't imagine how great a cleansing balm would have to be to just like... remove makeup. Because I've tried 2 cleansing balms that... I mean... I've tried 2 that do remove makeup. That's not the only thing.
That's not the only thing you're doing when you wash your face.
And that's not the only thing.
So you have the
low
hand skin cleansing oil and blackhead PHA?
No, let me see it. This is brown. Yeah, but it's not BHA.
That's a... Wait, I looked this up. I learned what a PHA was.
Oh, PHA. Yeah,
once upon a time.
It might be. I thought you said BHA, which definitely is not.
No. Key ingredient: alpha hydroxy acid, tea tree oil, salicylic acid, lactic acid. Yeah, so it's both exfoliating and cleansing at the same time.
It's doing more than one thing. That's what I like.
Clever. Maybe I should double cleanse.
I feel like you're fine.
All the time.
I feel like you're fine.
There's too many choices.
There are.
Too many things you could be doing with your skin.
I know. Remember my whole ordinary jag? I was not a fan of that stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
How do you agree?
Because I went out and bought some things too.
You did?
Yeah.
And you didn't like any of it?
Because it was like $6.
I know.
I went, okay, sure. I'll try I think I got the zinc and I got the buffet.
Oh.
Because I was like,
You
okay,
never
what are the
reported on
like
any of
true?
this.
Yeah, I know. Report is I broke out.
Really?
I think that's what caused it. In any case, it wasn't my skin wasn't looking better.
Yeah.
When I was on it.
I think I actually I did it all at the same time.
Yeah.
But then I continued with the hyaluronic acid.
Mm-hmm.
No one who's ever on this cares.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
I want all the men to start doing skincare. Of course they want men to start doing skincare because then they double their market. Yeah. But why wouldn't guys care about their skin?
Because it's not masculine.
Have nice skin?
To care about it.
Right, to care about it. You're supposed to have it. Or not.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be leathery. Like you've been working in the field all day.
Gross. Okay. Can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, hyaluronic acid. I then cut out the things that were burning.
Yeah.
Fucking glycol. Well, I looked it up and it was like, is this always a bad sign?
Yeah.
And
it's not.
It was not. So I was like, okay. But it wasn't immediately. I don't know about this whole you can't tell about something for a couple of weeks.
You know, it's like in some cases months. Apparently.
I think that's bullshit. I think you can tell pretty quickly.
What happens after 3 months? You're like, nope, my skin is worse than it ever has been.
I feel like when I use something, I can almost immediately tell. If I
have heard that sometimes it just takes some time.
Yeah,
and then it starts really working.
I've definitely heard that, but I feel like it's bullshit.
Okay.
And I stuck with the hyaluronic for a while because it was the least aggressive thing happening.
Mm-hmm.
It was so sticky.
Mm.
And I was like, nothing's worth this.
I also just feel like hyaluronic acid isn't enough things at this point.
It's in a lot of things.
It's a pretty common ingredient.
It is, but I don't trust the amount of things and things.
I get very confused when it's like 7 types of hyaluronic acid.
I've never even seen
19 types of hyaluronic acid. I'm
I've
like,
never seen that.
Really?
No.
Okay.
The
Barbara Sturm. Have we ever talked about Barbara Sturm?
No, but I literally 2 nights ago had a moment about that and was like, oh, I obviously need this.
Oh God. Just like never, ever, ever look up model skincare routines. Ever. Because they're always just like Barbara Sturm. Or some like dermatologist or cosmetologist. What do we call it? Anyway, that person. That they've been to who then like sent them home with $500 worth of skincare.
What's the problem with that?
Because the average person cannot afford that.
Is Barbara Sturm very expensive?
Very expensive. Her hyaluronic acid, I think, is like $78.
I'm getting it.
I mean,
well, if the $6 ordinary, I did try the $6 one.
Right. So try both of them. Yeah, and like she has other things that are definitely like in the $200 range. I want to say.
L'Occitane also had a bunch that were on the more expensive side, but there were ones. What I was trying to say about it is that not everything is overpriced.
Right.
So I have a sense that, like, okay, well,
like that it is fair pricing.
Yeah, maybe there's some justice to it. Yeah,
I'm sure there is some of that. I'm sure.
Unlike lines where everything is $1 gazillion.
Right. I'm sure there are certain products where it's like it it's worth it. For some reason, this is also making me think of, I think this is the company that I would like love to try if anyone's paying attention. Aromatica.
Oh, is that very expensive?
I think that's the one.
Comes up a lot.
No, that's not the one. What is it I'm thinking of? There's this other like super natural Korean skincare brand that I really want to try, but it's quite expensive. I can't think about it this right now.
Is it on any of those sites?
Like that.
Aromatica is a thing.
I know. It's something like that. But I'm looking at these prices. I'm like, no, this is very reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Why do I even know about it? Someone I follow on YouTube is like, this shit is good.
I'm curious about the Shangpri things too.
Shangri?
Mm-hmm. So funny, like it's 100% judging books by their covers. Like, what is? That's not true. It's also like a combination between that and like rumors, reviews. It's like, oh, this has a lot of.
How was review supposed to know?
I know, but like based on. I almost ordered those like eye things, the green eye things. You know the green eye things that everybody has?
Yeah. Have you ever tried those?
No!
Really?
Really?
Okay.
Because a lot of them have snail, or oyster, or pearl, or some such thing. There's like no such thing as a cruelty-free eye thing.
Really?
I'm Kara.
Cruelty-free and also doesn't have animals in it. Like from what I recall, a lot of the under eye things had pearls in it.
Pearl, right. I did not think of pearl as being non-vegan. I just didn't think of that. Sorry, this is so obnoxious.
Super obnoxious.
Let me just watch videos. The only thing worse than just being on your phone.
Then both of us being on our phones is somebody watching a video.
Okay, whatever. I'm gonna find the skincare line and I'm gonna do some more research.
I think someone probably just said, "Get off your mother-loving phone."
How many chapters are there? Oh, there's a lot of chapters. A lot. That's how many.
You've come to the source.
15 books, 2 epilogues.
There's only 5 more books, but they're mad long.
Yes.
It's all very disproportionate. Don't think that because we're in the final year of the not like a time span of the book, don't think that that means that we're close to the end, because we aren't.
Oh no.
We breezed through the first few years.
Oh yes.
In retrospect.
Did
Didn't
we?
feel like we were breezing through it, but kind of.
So much buildup, and now we're just staying. 1812. That's it. We're not going anywhere.
Do you know that one of the it was going to be one of the things that it might have been named, or another name for title for it that was in consideration was 1805.
Wait, what?
Yeah, someone maybe in that article that I sent you. It's like
I didn't.
the book was titled about the year that it's about or something, and I was like 1812, and it was like 1805, and I was like, it was about 1805.
Nothing happened in 1805.
Maybe I'm screwing up the numbers, but it was definitely not 1812. It was one of the preceding.
1805.
Like what even happened? Austerlitz, I think, happened in 1805.
Did it? Or did that happen in 1807?
I don't know. See, this is why you come to people who really know stuff. If you're going to listen to War and Peace, it should be by people who know what year stuff happened in.
No, you know what? This is the perfect way. This is like, you know, the narrator, or narrators are always like the audience perspective, right? So they're always the nicks, you know? Like to go Gatsby on you. They're like the guys who don't know anything.
Makes a dumbass.
He's totally clueless and stupid. And in that way, we're providing the service.
Yeah.
For all of you.
Nice.
We're the perfect duo.
Yeah. We're all dongles here. It's okay.
Like, how irritating would this experience be for, like...
I think that about everything, though. This is literally what I was going on about yesterday.
Yeah.
About how, like... And I was trying to tell my dad today that there's this, like... That there's a kind of pressure to, like, be, like, very precious about it.
Right. What does your dad think about that?
He was like, I have gone in book clubs and said, like, oh, I absolutely hated this. Or I have heard other people say it. But yes, there is, like... There is certainly a momentum towards, like, especially with things like a War and Peace book club. You're kind of supposed to think it's good.
You know what I think would be great?
What?
First of all, I think it would be great to have your dad on at some point.
If we can start early enough for him to be awake.
Yes. Just to have him, I don't know if he's been watching or how much he's been watching and how much he remembers about reading it, but to have, like, him give his impressions of
being
everything.
Another human being that's read it.
Yes, sure.
If anybody knows any human beings that have read this book.
I mean, like, he's been heavily featured on this channel.
I know. It's like...
So, like, he needs to show up at some point.
It's true. This don't bring a gun on stage if no one's going to get shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to meet Mr. B.
Ugh.
And we were talking about this, too. At some point, we should have, like, Aaron or someone who's been kind of following along and see how much they have managed to follow along.
So, Aaron, would you like to do that?
Yeah, Aaron, give us a knock. Let us know you're there.
Yeah, knock 3 times on the ceiling if you want to. Or twice on pipes. If the answer is no.
Yeah, I just think that would be great.
I agree.
We should do that.
I agree. Let's give him something to talk about that's not this fun. It's not this mother-loving fun.
Can't tell whether it's looking greener.
Who can say it? You can go back to, like, the first video.
I could. Yes.
That'd be, like, a really...
Wouldn't this be a great video? It's not going to happen at this point. If, like, slowly you saw the plant, like, coming back to life.
Yeah.
That would have been great. If we just replace it.
On the last day. It happened.
That's like
that would have been really special.
No one should ever watch this, but I did watch Between Two Ferns, the movie. There's a movie.
I think I know someone in it.
Because if anything ever needed to be made into a movie, it's that.
I'm fine with that.
Obviously. And there's something about the ferns in that where he's like, no, these ferns, they've been with me since the beginning.
They're the same ones.
And they're not. Like, they just keep replacing the ferns and Zach doesn't know.
You know what's fucked up on Craigslist today when I was looking for shit?
Yeah.
I saw a 100-plus-year-old bonsai olive tree. For guess how much money?
$23.
Over 100 years old.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be surprising.
It is surprising, but that's not that way. It's this way.
Oh, it's how much it is.
Yeah.
100 years old. I don't know. Then I'll go in the opposite direction.
Go.
$4,000.
Closer. 3,000. Yes. And the same dude has a 100-plus-year-old redwood bonsai, which, like, I just feel you have to be all kinds of demented to be like, I will take the biggest tree and I will make it the smallest tree. Like, what are you even doing with yourself?
I don't know. How does one make, what is a bonsai?
It's like foot binding for plants. I'm not really clear why they don't just die.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a weird miniature. I'm all about cute little things. I'm all about little things. Small versions of anything make me really happy. But trees, somehow not. It's kind of weird.
They're very doll-like.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't really look real to me, so I'm not that interested in them.
Yeah, they are though. They're full-grown trees.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like aged trees that are this big. I don't know. I just think it's a little bit demented. It's a little bit like, what's wrong with us?
I don't know. What is wrong with us?
We care so much more about like making a cute thing than about what?
It seems to have more green then than now.
Don't be funny. It had more green then?
Really?
Well, then I wish it had started with more green, so then at least it would be poetic. If it withered away, if we three just withered during the course of this.
That's how it should go. That's how this should happen.
It's one, I mean.
I kind of thought at some point that's what this was going to be. I thought like it was going to get to the point where we started looking pretty haggard and crazy.
No, because when the longer Tom Hanks is on the island, the more jacked he gets. In Castaway, he like might have gone nuts in the head, but he's like a god.
Yeah, actually.
I think that some people might be getting fat during quarantine.
Is anyone getting fat, or are we getting super fit?
I can't tell.
Can we let's find out.
Let's just agree. Let's just agree on something. There was this episode of John Oliver where he was talking about like trust fall, like something that ended up being about like trust falls.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, so today, like tonight, we are going to take the most embarrassing picture of ourselves and post it online, like all together. We're gonna jump together. And
is this to do with the Instagram thing, or it's different?
I think different.
Oh, okay.
And this was like years ago.
Oh, okay.
And he basically was like, ready, 1, 2, 3, like put his ugliest picture out and was like, I'm just trusting that all of you are doing this with me right now. No one was doing it.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I love that he's just willing to.
So good. Anyway, that reminded me of what? Oh, so let's just agree that what everybody's doing is getting back together. Then no one will be fat. Because everybody will be fat.
Because it's all about relative comparison.
Yes.
Well, are you getting fat?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I might be getting fit.
Yeah?
I can't tell.
Who can tell anything right now? We both might be having one of those like shallow hell. Like, what if we're both sitting here and we're both 300 pounds and we just can't tell?
And we're like, I'm looking really bad right now.
Because everything has gotten so distorted that we're like unable to see. That would be really funny. And the plant's the only way to tell. The plant's like looking sexy.
Yeah. That's the only way to tell. Like, presumably at one point, one of the couches would give way. It would be like, that's strange. Was there an earthquake?
That is such a fugly movie, Shallow Hal.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen it.
I feel like if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the movie.
Yeah, that's just it. I've seen the trailer, so I'm like, oh yeah, I know what it is. And of course they. What?
It's so obnoxious on so many levels.
Yeah. Did you see I Feel Pretty?
Mm-mm.
With Amy Schumer? Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing.
I've like never seen her on television ever in my life.
Like, you've never seen a comedy special of hers?
Yeah, I've never seen her doing her whatever
Her thing.
it is she does.
Basically, she's slutty.
That's kind of what it seems like.
Yeah.
But so is that's why I thought of the Mindy Project. I was like, wait, so is the whole thing that she's just a dumbass?
Yeah, I think so. And she's bossy.
But it's that same thing. And she, I think, has made comments about this in real life of like people being like, you are so brave to be wearing that. And she's like, because I should be embarrassed about what I look like.
Yeah.
There was something about like, I don't know. I kind of had that reaction to the 5 seconds of the show that I saw. I maybe saw the pilot. And I was like, wait, is the thing that she's acting like she's very like I felt like the joke was a little bit on her.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like she seems like kind of a ditzy like dumbass, at least in the pilot.
That's kind of been,
and you're like, wait, so this is funny because you don't look like someone who should be this materialistic?
Yeah, I think that's the joke. And to be fair, that you didn't watch The Office, but it was pretty much the same character, same joke on The Office.
I find that to be kind of off color almost.
And then this is also making me think of, did you ever see or read Matt and Ben?
No.
So that was the Fringe show that she did with like a friend from school about the writing of Good Will Hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the premise at all?
Of Matt and Ben?
Yeah.
No.
It's basically, I forget which one she played, or maybe they switched on opposite nights, but it's like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. And
that's funny.
So they dress up like them and like whatever, impersonate them. But it's basically like a script falls from the sky. And it's the script for Good Will Hunting. And like that's what made their careers or whatever. So it's just like about them and like the making of Good Will Hunting. And so I think maybe she played Ben. So I think she was kind of like playing a dumbass in that too. And I don't know why, but this is also me. I've always like, because I know that origin story, like it's that like got a ton of attention at the Fringe. And I think that's how she got her job on The Office. And then like was just gone from there. But I've always wondered what happened to her partner. You know?
You probably could figure that out.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I have not watched nearly enough of it to be clear on it, but I was a little bit confused by the.
People really like her. And why have I spent so much time on Mindy Kaling's career? I've also read her memoir. It's the same.
She's got a show out today on Netflix.
Yeah.
My friend is in. Yay!
Mm-hmm. I think I saw the trailer for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But yeah, it's like very much like the joke is at her expense. I guess if she's been on it, it's fine. I don't know.
I don't know either.
This is the thing too that like Hannah Gatsby.
It's Hannah.
Wait.
What?
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
Nanette.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The comedy special Nanette.
Well, I'm not the person to be talking about comedy specials. But neither of those words sound familiar.
Her name is Hannah Gatsby, right?
I don't know. I've never heard that name, but that doesn't mean that's not her name.
Yeah, okay. I got nervous.
I got so nervous.
I was like, oh no, I don't know who I'm talking about. that would be different for me. She's this Australian. I thought she was Kiwi. Okay, but she's Australian.
What a grave mistake.
That would be grave. If I were to confuse those two. You know?
Yeah, I do.
Cool. Anyway, she's this comedian who gave this comedy special called Nanette.
Yeah.
And it starts off, and you think it's like every other comedy special, and she's gay, and so she makes like a lot of gay jokes about herself, you know, and you think like, oh yeah, it's like this regular comedy special where we're just gonna like beat up the person on stage, basically. And then she totally like takes apart how comedy specials are done and how like comedy works, which is all about that. And she says like, no, I'm not gonna make fun, I'm not gonna put myself down, and I'm not gonna make fun of myself, and I'm not gonna like, she talks about the structure of comedy, in that like it's building suspense, and then you give it a punchline, like you give it a joke, and the tension is broken with the joke. That's basically how comedy works.
Okay.
And she goes on to say like she's been doing that with her life. So she's been making herself a joke and building and like going on stage, you know, and building the tension, and then like giving a punch line about herself. And in that way, she's never actually like been honest about where she's been in life. Like, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna give you the punchline. Like, I'm not gonna ease up on the tension. And she goes on to like describe Picasso. And I actually think you would really like this, or at least
sounds interesting.
Yeah. Cause she kind of, yeah, she fools you into thinking it's comedy, and it's not. It's like a one-person show. It's incredible. Why is it hard about that? Oh, I guess
because of tropes and
yeah, because like that's what's expected of you to do within comedy, is to be kind of like your own buffoon.
I wonder, like, I think that there are certain segments that it fits nicely into. Like, I don't think that's what Chris Rock does or Dave Chappelle. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're right.
That's like a certain kind of thing. And I think that there are fewer like lanes even for women to like find like I don't know how to even talk about comedy, because it's a little bit like there are archetypes. But even though it's a totally different form,
yeah,
that there's like lanes. And one of the most confusing things to me is the way that that people don't really know what to do with women in comedy. And they all get kind of squeezed, despite where we are, like they get squeezed into some kind of strange like lanes, and that is 100% one of them, of like, I am malfunctioning and here's how.
Yeah. Who's that comedian who's exactly Maria Bamford?
I don't know. That could be like a lot of different
weird. But yeah, I'm trying actually, like, aside from Hannah Gadsby, I'm trying to think of like a female comic who isn't a caricature.
I don't know nearly enough people.
Like even like Ali Wong, who's like her comedy special is like amazing. But it's like it's a little bit of that. It's definitely that. Anyway. Eliza Schlesinger. Have you ever seen her? No.
I have seen nobody. I have seen none of these people.
She always turns into like a baby T-Rex. She's I'm always like, oh, don't do that to your back. And she gets like really scrunched down like this.
Yeah, because
And it does all these funny faces. Yeah.
like you definitely can't be super attractive and be in comedy unless what?
You're not white.
Yeah, because that immediately makes you like I don't know. There's just like very few ways that it seems like it can work.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like there's any elbow room in this film. Like books, there are all kinds of books. Musicals, there are. Maybe some people don't think there are all kinds of musicals.
You know what? This is strange. Like, so, have you watched any of Mrs. Maisel?
No.
Because I was like, oh, like she's good looking, and actually, there's like a lot of there's a lot of emphasis on the show that like she shows up to do her comedy, and they're like, "What are you like here to sing?" And she's like, "No, I'm a comedian," and everyone's really surprised by it.
Yeah, because what are you talking about? And because there's also this huge thing. The like belief, the like large beliefs about women are so bizarre. The older I get, the more I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
They seem more and more ridiculous to me. There's this thing about women not being funny.
Yeah, that makes zero sense.
Like none. And it makes zero sense, like anecdotally, based on experiencing the world.
Yeah.
But that is not true.
Yeah.
It's not. What is everyone talking about? To me, it's up there with the weaker sex thing. It's like, sorry, who started saying this and what was it about? Because it feels like it has so little relationship to reality.
Yeah, and all it really takes is like for you to go out there into the world. And you'll be like, oh, that hypothesis doesn't hold water.
It feels it feels as obvious as the weaker sex thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe people aren't like spinning these stories anymore, but I think we probably are. I think they're probably still embedded in the fabric of our like stories somehow. I don't know. Did you hear that crazy sound just now?
Yeah.
What creature was that?
A bird?
Okay. It sounded a bit halfway between a bird and a snake the first time. I was like, is that a raptor? I think it's a raptor.
I think it's a baby raptor outside. Good. It will deal with the cats. Yes. This is also strangely, maybe this is related to A Room of One's Own.
Don't know it.
But you know, like the saying that like for a woman to write fiction, she must have money, her own money in a room of her own. Maybe that is true for comedy. Maybe a woman can't afford to like look funny if her livelihood is at stake, or she can't be like making jokes if she's basically an indentured object.
But like, doesn't everybody have mothers? I just mean, it's just weird. Like everyone came out of someone's vagina.
Yeah.
So like, is your mother not funny? Maybe she's not. I don't know.
I don't think everyone's funny. And then I also, it's so funny how much this book has stayed with me. That like Snowflower and the secret fan, it stayed with me so much. And I remember reading it and not being impressed by it at all. I was like, ugh, this Chinese tale of woe. but like it's all about I want to say like 18th century China and all about foot binding, or at least like a lot of it is based on that. And
Mhm.
so like these women basically are given this little tiny room upstairs in usually their husband's family's house. And like from the age of 6, their feet are bound. And so then they can't move or go anywhere. And they live upstairs in that room and they just like have to walk. Like they kind of have to exercise it. So they have to like walk on these broken bones until they're about 12, I want to say, when finally they've like shaped themselves. And then they get married off and they go live in their husband's houses.
And do they walk
And
there?
they pretty much like stay in that little room up there and they do all the chores and like and they stay up in the little tiny attic until they have daughters of their own and then they bind their daughter's feet. And I don't think those women were making jokes.
Really not. Or maybe they will.
Maybe they were, because like how else are you gonna deal with this?
That's actually what like it's fully one of the ways that I deal with intense shit.
Right.
Because if you can't, like, yeah, there's nowhere else for the energy to go.
Do you think that like someone I don't know how to test this hypothesis. But if you grew up in a world without jokes,
That exists.
would you have your own sense of humor? Or a sense of humor introduced to you?
I think it's like interpersonal. So I think wherever there's more than one person,
Yeah.
there's jokes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think.
It's babies laugh.
Yeah, what we find funny and stuff is certainly shaped by where we live and who we are around and who we find funny. But I think the occurrence, the phenomena happens everywhere. Phenomenon.
The phenomena of funny.
That bird is going nuts. That raptor bird. I'm excited to read.
Are you?
Kind of.
What happened yesterday, Nithya?
I decided that I might like the book, but what did happen? Pierre went to visit Andrew
At war.
at Wall, in the location of Warland,
Mm-hmm.
and
On the left flank or the right?
most definitely the left. No, just kidding. It was the light. And Andrew was all discombobulated by his arrival, and that actually was the first time maybe that Andrew's weirdness made a lot of sense to me.
Mm.
The fact that he was like a little bit hostile and sort of like else, I don't know. The fact that he acted like a fucking weirdo made more sense to me this time than it ever has. Because normally I'm like, and he's being a dick again. But this time I felt like I actually got it. And he ended up in this like it's super intense conversation where he basically berated Pierre about what a clusterfuck this was, war in general, and what a hot mess their society is, and the way that. So he basically like it got a little Ayn Randy, I feel like, from you, Randy. Like there were certain things that I was like, whoa, bro. Should have reread this. He got intense about a couple of things that I was like,
Like what?
like this is about killing each other, so let's just fucking do it. Like that. I was like,
Yeah,
whoa.
he's basically like war is murder.
Which, yes.
and everyone should stop playing the game of war,
Yes.
like, or stop pretending it's a game because it isn't.
And he thinks that everyone who's in charge just makes a mess of everything.
Mhm.
And it's got nothing to do with numbers or strategy or anything. It depends entirely on how people feel,
Yes.
like what is going on for them. And so I think he thinks of this like large swath of people who are actually doing the fighting as the only actual operatives in this whole set piece, this whole world. And it thinks of them as being completely unsupported by the people who are supposed to be in charge of them, by the people who are supposed to be, yeah,
Make you think of anything?
no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking a lot like this.
Mhm.
And obviously the people who are paying the cost are the people who, I saw this like post on Instagram today. It was like on Riz Ahmed's page. Anyway, something about how in situations like this, who are the people that are keeping the country together? It's the people that you are always telling that they don't belong here.
Mhm.
And similarly, like the way that societies, even if it's not the same, obviously here as the Russian army, then the like stratosphere system is always such that the people who are paying the costs are here, and the people who are making the decisions are here. But the people who the decisions affect are the most removed from being made, and the people deciding the costs are the furthest away from paying them. Yeah. What else was in there?
What was in there? I'm trying to
In our reading yesterday, I guess.
Yeah. You summed it up pretty well.
Was there anything but like before that whole sequence? There was some stuff that seemed boring and unimportant.
Were we just with Prince Andrew? We were with
Pierre.
Pierre and Prince Andrew. That's it, right? Pierre was with Kutuzov for a second.
Boris was there for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we went anywhere else.
Yeah, like we were kind of just with Pierre, but he was totally lost in all of it.
Oh yeah, he had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
This like it reminds me of how everyone's looking for someone who knows what's going on and no one does. And that's true like within the book, but it's also true like the way that I'm interfacing with the book. I'm like, okay, can anybody
So that's great. That's
fucking
great.
take charge of this?
Yeah.
Can anybody be even remotely clear? And I think that one of the reasons like to have gravitated towards doing a book like this is because I imagined that it would be so solid. I mean, it's the least solid thing I've ever read, but that does weirdly actually kind of make it perfect to read in a pandemic. Not because it gives you like all this like structure and sturdity. That's not a word. Whatever.
Sturdiness.
Yeah, that. Not because it gives you that, but because it's kind of like, yeah, no one.
Like the only thing you can be certain of is uncertainty, actually. And that's kind of like the true nature of things, really. It's just sometimes it's easier to pretend otherwise.
Yeah. So I imagine that there could be something not comforting in the way that like, oh, this person will tell me which way is up and which way is down. but more like, oh no, no one's ever known, so we're not alone in that way. Like these motherfuckers had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not the end of the world if we don't.
What do you think about the fact that Prince Andrew seems to have a pretty like clear head about everything that's going on? Clear head is like, and because of that, he's putting himself, he's like deliberately not being in a leadership role. When it would seem like, this is like the paradox that frustrates me so much. The problem with leadership and organizing people really is it's like by being in a leadership role, you corrupt yourself and it becomes more about yourself than the people you're serving. However, from like the ground up, how much influence can you necessarily have?
I think,
or maybe based on his thesis, like that's the only place you can actually have influence.
I think that is what he believes.
Yeah.
That is the only. It's the only place that you can have influence, because none of those other fuckers are doing anything.
Right.
They're just pretending.
Yeah.
So the only place to be in a war is where he is.
Mm.
So I think that's like a really big, an important part of it. But I think also he moralizes about it. So it's like there's only one place that one should be, and that is on the ground. He does seem to have a really clear head, but I guess I just don't want to speak too soon.
Yeah, okay, fair.
He has moments of clarity. He does.
He has moments of clarity with long stretches of obscurity.
Yes, and also I think he's good with ideas.
Yeah.
And whether or not that translates to like
whether he's actually able to live. I mean, obviously he's not very capable of like living out on an interpersonal level the things that he spouts.
So I think he's like able to think through and discuss it. One of the things I was most struck by was the fact that there was a lot of distraction from all the flesh in the fleshy pool of flesh.
In the pond.
But
flesh pond. It sounds like a bad band name. We are Flesh Pond.
I can't hear that without physically reacting. It looks like. You'll say it again, please.
Okay.
One of the interesting things is that he seems to be like well loved by the people who like surround him, and I thought that was actually kind of interesting because you don't really gain anything from him. He has nothing to. There's a power struggle with his dad. He keeps forgetting he has a child. With everybody else. I don't know. I was like struck by the fact that they like him. Just like as a person.
You didn't think he would be likable?
No.
Yeah.
Or I thought that he would have to be like lofty and idealistic to be likable. Like I didn't know that there was going to be another. And there was some of that with Natasha. He was like obviously was able to behave lovingly towards another person. And it, however stupid it may or may not have been, it was loving to be like, here, I allow you this amount of time and whatever happens, happens. And he's hurt, but he sticks by it. He's not like that bitch.
Yeah.
So, where am I going with this? I don't know.
I thought the story was so sweet. There was this little description of Natasha who had gone out mushroom hunting at night. And she was trying to describe it. She's like, no, but I can't describe it. It was too no, I can't justify it with my words alone. And he was saying he did get it. She's like, no, but you can't get it because I'm not describing it the right way.
Yeah, I thought that was really sweet too.
Yeah.
And also it feels like real somehow. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he will make his way to. I don't know. I'm suddenly very wary of trying to find any kind of like linear talk.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see how long that lasts.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure it will go in and out of being easy, but
What's gonna happen at this war? That's what I want.
I think we will find out.
Do you think? Are we gonna get there? Do you think we're gonna be reading that today?
I feel like we've been reading.
One of the deadliest wars, battles. I keep saying battle. I
Are
also
you
think
really
we're
upset
gonna.
about the fact that you keep calling things wars?
Yeah, because it's not a war. The war is the bigger piece, and the battle is the single battle. Anyway, I also think we're gonna finish book 10 today.
I thought there were 30-something book chapters.
Yeah, we're chapter 26.
We're not reading 10 chapters today.
Oh wait, you might be right. I thought. Oh, wait.
It's not like, I just want to say it's not like I've made no progress.
Yeah.
No, that's not true that I've made no progress.
I don't know what you've been doing. Oh no, we're not. No, excusez-moi. No. No, I thought there were 30 chapters. No, we're good. We're good. There's 39.
I would be handstanding next to a green fern.
We get like a body double in here for both of us.
For both of us. Oh, funny, my love. Okay. Do you want to read?
Yes.
We are at chapter 26, eons from the end of book 10. Chapter 26. On August 25th, my father's birthday, Indian Independence Day, the eve of the Battle of Borodino, Monsieur de Bosset, prefect of the French Emperor's palace, arrived at Napoleon's quarters at Valluego with Colonel Favier, the former from Paris and the latter from Madrid.
Donning his court uniform, Monsieur de Bosset ordered a box he had brought for the emperor to be carried before him and entered the first compartment of Napoleon's tent, where he began opening the box while conversing with Napoleon's aide-de-camp, who surrounded him.
Favier, this is like fuel.
Yeah, I know. You ignore the B, I'm pretty sure.
Favier.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Okay, you do it your way.
You ignore the B. Well, not you. But
one would.
One might. Favier, not entering the tent, remained at the entrance talking to some generals of his acquaintance.
The Emperor Napoleon had not yet left his bedroom and was finishing his toilette. Slightly snorting and grunting, he presented now his back and now his plump, hairy chest to the brush with which his valet was rubbing him down.
Dry brushing. Why are you acting like you don't know what's happening?
Why don't I have someone who does this for me?
You could just like duct tape it to the door and be like, that's the bare necessities.
Another valet, with his finger over the mouth of a bottle, was sprinkling eau de cologne on the emperor's pampered body.
Ew!
With an expression which seemed to say that he alone knew where and how much eau de cologne should be sprinkled.
Okay. I can't.
And where.
I can't. Why am I so horrified by these things?
Napoleon's short hair was wet and matted on the forehead, but his face, though puffy and yellow, expressed physical satisfaction. Go on, harder, go on, he muttered to the valet, who was rubbing him, slightly twitching and grunting. Stop it! An aide-de-camp, who had entered the bedroom to report to the emperor the number of prisoners taken in yesterday's action, was standing by the doorway after delivering his message, awaiting permission to withdraw. What would you be? What do you think that guy's like?
Oh, that's good.
Napoleon, frowning, looked at him from under his brows.
No prisoners, said he, repeating the aide-de-camp's words. They are forcing us to exterminate them. So much the worse for the Russian army. Go on, harder, harder, he muttered.
Mm.
I can't.
But there's an exclamation point.
Okay, thank you. Go on, harder, harder. I hate this. I'm so grossed out. Oh my god. He muttered, hunching his back and presenting his fat shoulder. Okay, why is this so grotesque?
Because it's supposed to be.
I know, but like, do you know why?
Why is it? Oh, I don't know. Because he's being like pampered, and at the same time, he's like prostrating himself.
Oh, it's so disgusting. Okay.
All right, let Monsieur de Beausset entered, and Favier too, he said, nodding to the aide-de-camp.
Yes, sire, and the aide-de-camp disappeared through the door of the tent.
Two valets rapidly dressed His Majesty, and wearing the blue uniform of the guards, he went with firm, quick steps to the reception room.
De Beausset's hands, meanwhile, were busily engaged, arranging the present he had brought from the Empress on two chairs directly in front of the entrance. But Napoleon had dressed and come out with such unexpected rapidity that he had not time to finish arranging the surprise.
Napoleon noticed at once what they were about and guessed that they were not ready. He did not wish to deprive them of the pleasure of giving him a surprise, so he pretended not to see de Beausset and called Favier to him, listening silently and with a stern frown to what Favier told him of the heroism and devotion of his troops fighting at Salamanca, at the other end of Europe, with but one thought, to be worthy of their emperor, but one fear, to fail to please him. The result of that battle had been deplorable. Napoleon made ironic remarks during Favier's account, as if he had not expected that matters could go otherwise in his absence.
I just want to make one quick point.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that drove me a little nutty about Andrew's thing about how war is murder is that he was captured by the French and they didn't kill him. They let him be.
Mm-hmm.
So what is he like? Just murder us already.
Oh yeah, he didn't think that we should take him prisoners.
Yeah, that seemed weird.
Do you think that was tied up at all with the fact that, like, he was very disgusted with the fact that, like, Austerlitz, because it wasn't on Russian land, it wasn't on French land, like, there were no real stakes, so that was part of the game. And why, like, the Russians lost that battle.
Mm-hmm.
Because what did they care? Like, they
Mm-hmm.
just retreated.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that's part of, like, why they didn't take prisoners? Because what's it to either party at that point?
I think they did take prisoners at that time.
Yeah, they did. But, like, now that they're in Russia, now he's like, no, we shouldn't take prisoners.
Maybe. It just is. I was like, you were a prisoner.
So, like, you owe your life to
kind
that,
of.
actually.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that it didn't even come up, I guess, in the... I don't know. I must make up for that in Moscow, said Napoleon. I'll see you later. He added and summoned de Beausset, who by that time, had prepared the surprise, having placed something on the chairs and covered it with a cloth.
De Beausset bowed low, with that courtly French bow which only the old retainers, the Bourbons, knew how to make, and approached him, presenting an envelope.
Napoleon turned to him gaily and pulled his ear.
You have hurried here. I am very glad. Well, what is Paris saying? He asked, suddenly changing his former stern expression for a more cordial tone.
Sire, all Paris regrets your absence, replied de Beausset, as was proper.
But though Napoleon knew that de Beausset had to say something of this kind, and though in his lucid moments he knew it was untrue, he was pleased to hear it from him. Again, he honored him by touching his ear.
I am very sorry to have made you travel so far, said he.
Sire, I expected nothing less than to find you at the gates of Moscow, replied de Beausset.
Napoleon smiled, and lifting his head absent-mindedly, glanced to the right. An aide-de-camp was approaching with gliding steps and offered him a gold snuff-box, which he took.
Yes, it has happened luckily for you, he said, raising the open stuff-box to his nose. You are fond of travel, and in 3 days you will see Moscow. You surely did not expect to see that Asiatic capital. You will have a pleasant journey.
De Beausset bowed gratefully at this regard for his taste of travel, of which he had not till then been aware.
Ah, what's this? Asked Napoleon, noticing that all the courtiers were looking at something concealed under a cloth.
With courtly adroitness, the Bosset half turned, and without turning his back to the emperor, retired 2 steps, twitching off the cloth at the same time, and said,
A present to your majesty from the empress.
"Oh!" It was a portrait, painted in bright colors by Gerard, of the son born to Napoleon by the daughter of the Emperor of Austria, the boy whom for some reason everyone called the King of Rome.
A very pretty curly-headed boy with the look of the Christ and the Sistine Madonna was depicted playing at stick and ball. The ball represented the terrestrial globe, and the stick, in his other hand, a scepter.
Yikes. Though it was not clear what the artist meant to express, was it not? Meant to express by depicting the so-called King of Rome spiking the earth with a stick. The allegory apparently seemed to Napoleon, as it had done to all who had seen it in Paris, quite clear and very pleasing.
The King of Rome, he said, pointing to the portrait with a graceful gesture. Admirable.
With the natural capacity of an Italian for changing the expression of his face at will, he drew natural capacity of an Italian.
You know those Italians.
You know, because Napoleon was Italian.
He was.
I know, but he wasn't. He was Corsican. It's this whole thing. But he's like the Frenchest of French.
Yeah.
Also, he drew nearer to the portrait and assumed a look of pensive tenderness. He felt that what he now said and did would be historical, and it seemed to him that it would now be best for him, whose grandeur enabled his son to play stick and ball with the terrestrial globe, to show, in contrast to that grandeur, the simplest paternal tenderness. His eyes grew dim. He moved forward, glanced round at a chair, which seemed to place itself under him, and sat down on it before the portrait. At a single gesture from him, everyone went out on tiptoe, leaving the great man to himself and his emotion.
Having sat still for a while, he touched himself, not knowing why. There's a dash there.
Okay.
The thick spot of paint.
He touched the thick spot of paint.
Okay, representing
Himself not knowing why.
the highest light in the portrait, rose and recalled de Bosset and the officer on duty. He ordered the portrait to be carried outside his tent, that the old guards stationed round it might not be deprived of the pleasure of seeing the King of Rome, the son and heir of their adored monarch.
And while he was doing Monsieur de Bosset the
Why is that so?
I don't know. I think
Uh,
because of the way that it clicked in my mind, the timing of the way it clicked in my mind. And it's just such a weird thing to suddenly be happening since we started reading. It's been like grotesquely
I know.
that whole section and then the like 2 accidental. Okay. And while he was doing Monsieur de Bosset the honor of breakfasting with him, they heard, as Napoleon had anticipated, the rapturous cries of the officers and men of the old guard who had run up to see the portrait. Plus, I think I just have the giggles now.
Where are we?
Vive l'empereur! Vive
Thank
le...
you. Vive l'empereur! Vive le roi de Rome! Vive l'empereur! Came those ecstatic cries.
After breakfast, Napoleon in de Bosset's presence. My God. Have you ever laughed in like really inappropriate situations?
Sort of.
And the worse it is, the more you can't stop.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah.
Oh, I've had several moments like that. Oh, God. With Emily.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. We fucking started dying at this one-act festival at the worst moment. It was because there was a really stark shift from one act to the next. But it was so... It started like in such a dark, like, oh, my mother's cancer. Like, the first line. was so fucking intense that we just like got like a thing of shock and started laughing. We were in the first row in like a small black box,
my
and I was
God.
like this. And we were like shaking and audible. It was really bad, and we were desperately trying to stop because the actors were like right there,
Right.
and it was like really rude. Oh my god.
Maybe it was intentional. Maybe it was intentional.
It was because I like watched the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And it just when I feel like when it gets you, you're just fucking done for.
Yeah. Sure.
It happens to me on set as well, and like when you like screw up more than one take because of laughing, it's really unprofessional and not good. But then that makes it even harder.
I mean, if anything, it's like it's a tone of seriousness for me that makes it things really funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the more you laugh, like the more serious they get.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
God.
After breakfast?
Yeah.
After breakfast, Napoleon, in de Beausset's presence, dictated his order of the day to the army.
Short and energetic, he remarked when he had read over the proclamation which he had dictated straight off without corrections. It ran,
Soldiers, this is the battle you have so longed for. Victory depends on you. It is essential for us. It will give us all we need, comfortable quarters and a speedy return to our country. Behave as you did at Austerlitz, Friedland, Vitebsk, and Smolensk. Let our remotest posterity recall your achievements this day with pride. Let it be said of each of you, he was in the great battle before Moscow.
Before Moscow, repeated Napoleon, and inviting Monsieur de Beausset, who was so fond of travel, to accompany him on his ride, he went out of the tent to where the horses stood saddled.
Your Majesty is too kind, replied de Beausset to the invitation to accompany the Emperor. He wanted to sleep, did not know how to ride, and was afraid of doing so.
But Napoleon nodded to the traveler, and de Beausset had to mount.
I feel like this is on purpose.
I think so too. When Napoleon came out of the tent, the shouting of the guards before his son's portrait grew still louder. Napoleon frowned.
Also, I just want to say the last time I started laughing, it was because the sentence was Napoleon in de Beausset's presence, with no commas in between. And when do you say someone in someone else? What is the likelihood of that? Take him away, he said, pointing with a gracefully majestic gesture to the portrait. It is too soon for him to see a field of battle.
De Beausset closed his eyes, bowed his head, and sighed deeply to indicate how profoundly he valued and comprehended the Emperor's words.
Chapter 27. On the 25th of August, so his historians tell us, Napoleon spent the whole day on horseback, inspecting the locality, considering plans submitted to him by his marshals, and personally giving commands to his generals.
The original line of the Russian forces along the river Kolocha had been dislocated by the capture of the Shavardino redoubt on the 24th, and part of the line, the left flank, had been drawn back. That part of the line was not entrenched, and in front of it, the ground was more open and level than elsewhere. It was evident to anyone, military or not, that it was here the French should attack. It would seem that not much consideration was needed to reach this conclusion, nor any particular care or trouble on the part of the emperor and his marshals. Nor was there any need of that special and supreme quality called genius that people are so apt to ascribe to Napoleon. Yet the historians who describe the event later, and the men who then surrounded Napoleon, and he himself, thought otherwise.
Napoleon rode over the plain and surveyed the locality with a profound air, and in silence, nodded with approval or shook his head dubiously, and without communicating to the generals around him the profound course of ideas which guided his decisions, merely gave them his final conclusions in the form of commands. Having listened to a suggestion from Davout, who was now called Prince Decmul, to turn the Russian left wing, Napoleon said it should not be done, without explaining why not. that sounded important. To turn how can they turn the Russian? I don't know. Without explaining why not. To a proposal made by General Campen, who was to attack the Flèches, to lead his division through the woods, Napoleon agreed, though the so-called Duke of Elkingen, nay, ventured to remark that a movement through the woods was dangerous and might disorder the division.
Having inspected the country opposite the Shevardino redoubt, Napoleon pondered a little in silence and then indicated the spots where 2 batteries should be set up by the morrow to act against the Russian entrenchments, and the places where, in line with them, the field artillery should be placed.
After giving these and other commands, he returned to his tent, and the dispositions for the battle were written down from his dictation.
These dispositions, of which the French historians write with enthusiasm and other historians with profound respect, were as follows.
At dawn, the 2 new batteries established during the night on the plain occupied by the Prince d'Eckmühl will open fire on the opposing batteries of the enemy.
At the same time, the commander of the artillery of the First Corps, General Pernetti, with 30 cannon of Campen's division and all the howitzers of Desix and Friant's divisions will move forward, open fire, and overwhelm with shell fire the enemy's battery, against which will operate 24 guns of the artillery of the Guards, 30 guns of Campen's division, and 8 guns of Friant's and Desix divisions, in all 62 guns.
Are we all clear?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I am painfully clear.
Right.
The commander of the artillery of the Third Corps, General Foch, will play the howitzers of the Third and Eighth Corps, 16 in all, on the flanks of the will place the howitzers. I know almost none of these words.
Right, okay. Well, what do you want to look some of these up? A howitzer.
Yeah, a short gun for firing shells on high trajectories at low velocities. The previous word I just skipped by was. Oh no, it was howitzers again.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I think I get it as much as I can.
Yeah. Place at the Third and Eighth Corps.
Like the numbers just don't mean anything to me because it's all based spatially, and if you don't have that, then it's nothing.
Yeah.
Unless the Third. What about the Second Corps? They say nothing of the Second Corps because the previous account was of the First. So the commander of the artillery of the Third Corps, General Foch, will place the howitzers of the Third and Eighth Corps, 16 in all, on the flanks of the battery that is to bombard the entrenchment on the left, which will have 40 guns in all directed against it.
General Sorbier must be ready at the first order to advance with all the howitzers of the Guards' artillery against either one or other of the entrenchments.
During the cannonade, Prince Poniatowski is to advance through the wood on the village and turn the enemy's position.
General Campen will move through the wood to seize the first fortification.
After the advance has begun in this manner, orders will be given in accordance with the enemy's movements.
Cannonade on the left flank will begin as soon as the guns of the right wing are heard. The sharpshooters of Moran's division and of the Vice King's division will open a heavy fire on seeing the attack commence on the right wing.
The Vice King will occupy the village and cross by its 3 bridges, advancing to the same heights as Moran's and Gibrad's division, which under his leadership will be directed against the redoubt and come into line with the rest of the forces.
All this must be done in good order. Le tout se fera avec ordre et méthode. Thanks. As far as possible, retaining troops in reserve.
For the one person who was reading this book but doesn't speak English and only speaks French.
Yeah. Yes. For you.
I am impressed by your perseverance, by your tenacity to get 65% through a book in English. Mm-hmm. Okay. The Imperial Camp, Nemozhaysk, September 6, 1812.
These dispositions, which are very obscure and confused if one allows oneself to regard the arrangements without
Thank you.
religious awe of his genius, related to Napoleon's orders to deal with 4 points, 4 different orders. Not one of these was or could be carried out.
Why not? Because it's
I
stupid.
don't know. I hope.
Can you read for a
Well,
second?
go on.
Grab
Yeah.
some Advil and a beverage.
In the disposition, it is said first that the batteries placed on the spot chosen by Napoleon, with the guns of Pernetti and Fouche, which were to come in line with them, 102 guns in all, were to open fire and shower shells on the Russian flèches and redoubts. This could not be done, as from the spots selected by Napoleon, the projectiles did not carry to the Russian works, and those 102 guns shot into the air until the nearest commander, contrary to Napoleon's instructions, moved them forward. The second order was that Poniatowski, moving to the village through the wood, should turn the Russian left flank. This could not be done and was not done because Poniatowski, advancing on the village through the wood, met Tuchkov there barring his way and could not and did not turn the Russian position. The third order was General Campan will move through the wood to seize the first fortification. General Campan's division did not seize the first fortification, but was driven back, for on emerging from the wood, it had to reform under grape shot, of which Napoleon was unaware.
The fourth order was the vice-king will occupy the village, Borodino, and cross by its 3 bridges, advancing to the same heights as Morons and This is no vowels in his name. Division, for whose movements no directions are given, which under his leadership will be directed against the redoubt and come into line with the rest of the forces.
As far as one can make out, not so much from this unintelligible sentence as from the attempts the vice-king made to execute the orders given him, he was to advance from the left through Borodino to the redoubt, while the divisions of Morand and Gerard were to advance simultaneously from the front.
All this, like the other parts of the disposition, was not and could not be executed.
After passing through Borodino, the vice-king was driven back to the Kolocha and could get no farther, while the divisions of Morand and Gerard did not take the redoubt but were driven back. And the redoubt was only taken at the end of the battle by the cavalry, a thing probably unforeseen and not heard of by Napoleon. So not one of the orders in the disposition was or could be executed.
What? Why does...
It's just to say, why make plans?
But, like, how should we think about how you wrote this book? Just a clusterfuck of actions. Okay. But in the disposition, it is said that after the fight has commenced in that manner, orders will be given in accordance with the enemy's movements, and so it might be supposed that all necessary arrangements would be made by Napoleon during the battle. But this was not and could not be done. For during the whole battle, Napoleon was so far away that, as appeared later, he could not know the course of the battle, and not one of his orders during the fight could be executed. We are not impressed by Napoleon.
Are we not impressed by Napoleon?
We're haters. We're a hater.
No, I don't think this has anything to do with Napoleon. I think this is just like, see, like, they make all these little plans and these schemes.
Yeah, but the day is like literally everybody.
And you can't predict all these little items that are going to happen.
I know, but I think that was even more, this bit just now was even more than like you can't predict. It was like none of that shit that I just wrote down made any fucking sense.
Okay.
It was a little bit like even more than that hands of fate thing.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
All right.
28th.
Mm-hmm.
The 28th of chapters.
Yes.
Many historians say that the French did not win the Battle of Borodino because Napoleon had a cold, and that if he had not had a cold, the orders he gave before and during the battle would have been still more full of genius, and Russia would have been lost, and the face of the world had been changed. To historians who believe that Russia was shaped by the will of one man, Peter the Great, who the damn hell is that?
Peter the Great?
Is that the moon-faced
Do
Emperor?
you not know? No, that's Alexander.
So who the god?
Peter,
Petey?
the Great.
Petey!
He was the greatest of all the Peters.
Oh my
Pierre's
God.
named after him, but French. Why does Pierre have French? Or is that intentional? What does it mean? I'm out of my league.
Peter the Great! And that France from a republic became an empire, and French armies went to Russia at the will of one man, Napoleon. To say that Russia remained a power because Napoleon had a bad cold on the 24th of August may seem logical and convincing.
Peter the Great. 1672 to 1725, because I know you like dates.
Oh, so in the before.
In the before, yes.
Oh,
Known
I didn't realize
as-
we thought that.
Peter the Great.
Piotr.
Piotr modernized his armed forces and expanded his territory in the Baltic. That's enough for it. He had many wars. Many
He was great.
wars were fought
He was great.
because he was so, that's how you become great, is you have a lot of people die on your behalf. And look how great he looks. What a great... He looks like Arya.
He does look like Arya. It might be Arya.
I think it is.
Oh my
Wow, that's... I mean, like, and the mustache almost looks painted on.
It looks like Arya dressed up as the Great.
as a
16.
Tsar, and was
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure, I'll do this now.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. So that's who that is.
Okay.
If it had depended on Napoleon's will to fight or not to fight the Battle of Borodino, and if this or that other arrangement depended on his will, then evidently a cold affecting the manifestation of his will might have saved Russia. And consequently, the valet who omitted to bring Napoleon his waterproof boots on the 24th would have been the savior of Russia. Along that line of thought, such a deduction is undubitable. As undubitable as the deduction Voltaire made in jest without knowing what he was jesting at when he saw that the massacre of St. Bartholomew was due to Charles IX's stomach being deranged. You know this reference, right?
His deranged stomach.
Yeah. But to men who do not admit that Russia was formed by the will of one man, Peter I, or that the French Empire formed in the war with Russia begun by the will of one man, Napoleon, that argument seems not merely untrue and irrational, but contrary to all human reality. To the question of what causes historic events, another answer presents itself, namely, that the course of human events is predetermined from on high, depends on the coincidence of the wills of all who take part in the events, and that a Napoleon's influence on the course of these events is purely external and fictitious.
Let me guess, you don't agree with them either. Strange, as at first glance it may seem, to suppose that the massacre of St. Bartholomew was not due to Charles IX's will, though he gave the order for it and thought it was done as a result of that order. And strange as it may seem to suppose that the slaughter of 80,000 men at Borodino was not due to Napoleon's will, though he ordered the commencement and conducted the battle and thought it was done because he ordered it. Strange as these suppositions appear, yet human dignity, which tells me that each of us is, if not more, at least not less, a man than the great Napoleon. Whoa. If not more, then at least not less.
Ooh.
Slice. I told you he doesn't like you. He's like, I'm pretty sure we're all better than Napoleon.
Right, pretty much.
Demands the acceptance of that solution of the question. What?
Demands the acceptance of that solution.
Okay. And historic investigation abundantly confirms it. What the it is.
It confirms it.
It.
It's basically that these great leaders on high are as much pawns as anyone.
Yes, I thought we'd already made this point.
I know, but we
numerous
need
times.
to reestablish it 19 times.
Okay.
At the Battle of Borodino, Napoleon shot at no one and killed no one. That was all done by the soldiers. Therefore, it was not he who killed people.
See, he is using Andrew. Like, this is all the shit Andrew said, and now it's all the shit that he's saying. It's kind of weird.
Or is it what every writer does?
Usually they don't have to repeat it like that. It's enough that Andrew said it.
Right, that's true.
It's not like, here's what I think, guys. Remember me? Andrew's daddy. Yeah. At the Battle of Borodino, you read that.
Mhm.
The French soldiers went to kill and be killed at the Battle of Borodino, not because of Napoleon's orders, but by their own volition. I don't know about that. The whole army, French, Italian, German, Polish, and Dutch, hungry, ragged, and weary of the campaign, felt at the sight of an army blocking their road to Moscow that the wine was drawn and must be drunk. Had Napoleon then forbidden them to fight the Russians, they would have killed him and have proceeded to fight the Russians because it was inevitable.
When they heard Napoleon's proclamation offering them, as compensation for mutilation and death, the words of posterity about their having been in the battle before Moscow, they cried, "Vive l'Empereur!" just as they had cried, "Vive l'Empereur!" at the sight of the portrait of the boy piercing the terrestrial globe with a toy stick, and just as they would have cried, "Vive l'Empereur!" at any nonsense that might be told them. There was nothing left for them to do but cry, "Vive l'Empereur!" and go to fight, in order to get food and rest as conquerors in Moscow. So it was not because of Napoleon's commands that they killed their fellow men.
Actually, it kind of was because they had to do it to get food and rest.
Because they had no other option.
Yeah, because of the orders on the phone.
But they didn't have to.
But if they didn't have to, then why did they do it?
But then why did the commanders have to make those orders?
And how much would a woodchuck chuck? If a woodchuck could chuck wood. And it was not Napoleon. Oh, we're not done with this, clearly. And it was not Napoleon who directed the course of the battle, for none of his orders were executed, and during the battle he did not know what was going on before him. So the way in which these people killed one another was not decided by Napoleon's will, but occurred independently of him, in accord with the will of hundreds of thousands of people who took part in the common action. It only seems to Napoleon that it all took place by his will, and so the question whether he had or had not a code has no more historic interest than the code, or of the least of the transport soldiers.
Moreover, the assertion made by various writers that his cold was the cause of his dispositions not being as well planned as on former occasions, and of his orders during the battle not being as good as previously, is quite baseless, which again shows that Napoleon's cold on the 26th of August was unimportant.
No one thinks it's important.
Well, apparently people did.
I don't even know if they do.
I don't know either, because I don't know
Like,
these
we're just
historians.
taking
You know those historians.
this whole
Historians.
this is like a refutation of a thing I've never heard.
What do you mean?
Like, he's refuting like a whole way of telling history that I'm like, oh, is this what people really think though?
Well, we don't know.
Right. Maybe.
I mean, I don't know if the historians today have changed their tune. These are the historians of the 1800s.
But he's also saying that there is no way to tell history. Because, of course, the way people tell it is like, this person was the commander of the army, then this is what the army did. He's basically saying that there's no way to narratively structure. This is his history of a war, the way that he thinks the history of a war should be told.
Do you think it is? Or it's
I
as
kinda
much
do.
a fiction as anything? Like, I don't know if he's asserting that this is actually how the war went down, because there's fictional characters in it now.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that like he's saying literally this is what happened. I'm saying that he goes on, he's so critical of historians throughout this whole So it seems to me possible that but if you think about the way history is taught, like what do you have? You have the numbers, you have the names. So maybe they're not asserting that Napoleon single-handedly was a genius and did all the, like, they don't have to be telling it like that for him to have this issue, because we don't know everybody's name who was on the front lines. So if we really fully swallow his perspective, which is that everything is coincidence in something like this, and so actually your focus is on all the wrong things, these commands, these orders, these strategies, these generals, these leaders, and these like occurrences and dates and whatever. Because I think he even said the date was wrong at some point. And then you were like, no, the date's wrong.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why that is.
But he
on
also said
Wikipedia,
something.
it says it's September, and now it says August 26th is the date.
So imagine, for me, how you would teach history if you can't use those things.
Okay, I understand your point about teach history. I actually kind of agree with him about.
I don't agree or disagree.
About that, everyone, if you were to say like all the soldiers were like obeying their orders or whatever, like had no responsibility for everything that they did, then the same is true for him. You know, like the same laws that you could say like, no, those soldiers like weren't responsible for killing people, like because they were compelled by whatever sense of loyalty or whatever they had, then you could say the same is true of like all the leaders. They're like compelled by some mental state too. So I do actually agree with that. I get your point that you're saying like history has to be told in some way, and it does have to be told like Napoleon gave these orders and then this happened. So I see what you're saying there. And that without that, like, I don't know what you would do. Like you would take out like cause. It would just be effect.
You would literally do this.
Yeah.
I think we finally have gotten to a place in the book where at least I am like thinking of it as a whole. Like I haven't thought about the title of this book up until yesterday, other than to joke about whether we're in war or whether we're in peace, or where's the war, that whole thing. But I haven't felt like I have even the vaguest sense of the book enough to be like, oh, I wonder why it's called that, or what. Not wonder why, but like really wonder why it's called that. Or and the more he goes on about this stuff, the more I do think that one of his huge priorities, one of his major like ongoing concerns, is to address history.
Yeah.
So I don't think necessarily that he thinks that this is a history.
But he wants to make a criticism of almost
it's a different way
the field of history, of how history is told.
It's a totally different perspective of the war. So I could see this like, and I'm not saying this is its only function, but I could see this being an experiment of like how to tell the story of a war without really leaning on those things and not ignoring them. Like all of those things are in here as well.
Yeah.
You know, we still see Napoleon, but he's just like one of the people that we see. And we obviously keep getting told that he doesn't do anything. Yeah.
Or it seems like what he does is like he does the role of the leader.
Yeah.
That's what he does, actually.
Which is very like he's like a symbol. Where were we? The dispositions cited.
Mhm.
The dispositions cited above are not at all worse, but even better than previous dispositions by which he had won victories. His pseudo orders during the battle were also no worse than formerly, but much the same as usual. These dispositions and orders only seem worse than previous ones because the Battle of Borodino was the first Napoleon did not win. The profoundest and most excellent dispositions and orders seem very bad, and every learned militarist criticizes them with looks of importance when they relate to a battle that has been lost. And the very worst dispositions and orders seem very good, and serious people fill whole volumes to demonstrate their merits when they relate to a battle that has been won.
The dispositions drawn up by Weyrother for the Battle of Austerlitz were a model of perfection for that kind of composition. But still, they were criticized for their very perfection, for their excessive minuteness.
Napoleon at the Battle of Borodino fulfilled his office as representative of authority. There we go. Representative of authority.
Yeah, actually.
As well as, and even better than, at other battles. He did nothing harmful to the progress of the battle. He inclined to the most reasonable opinions. He made no confusion, did not contradict himself, did not get frightened or run away from the field of battle, but with his great tact and military experience carried out his role of appearing to command calmly and with dignity.
Chapter 29.
I guess I just think that like if he's taking his position, then he by necessity has to be wrong as well.
Tolstoy?
Kind of. Because if he's saying that there's no way, then it's only a hop, skip, and a jump to say that we can't actually separate Napoleon from these occurrences.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's like a complex mesh interwoven thing, if everything is, because let's say Napoleon is the least of the transport soldiers, but then he's saying the transport soldiers are the most important thing, then Napoleon is part of the most important thing.
So you're saying if nothing is greater than, then nothing is greater than.
Yes.
In which case, Napoleon has just as much weight as like what Andrew said.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
So it's almost like not possible to say like, oh, he did nothing and played no role. Because by your philosophy, by like what you're saying that it cannot be determined what plays a role, and everything plays a role and nothing plays a role.
I think he does say that he played a role, though. It's just that you can't say that the battle was won or lost because of his instructions, because that's actually like not what matters about Napoleon.
Say that again.
The battle wasn't won or lost because Napoleon had a cold, or like because his plans were genius, or because they were stupid.
But
because that's not the thing that he was actually doing. That's like not why he's important.
But I don't know that it was not why it was not why they won. I seriously am not just being difficult.
I don't know.
Like, yes, agree. But by that same token, that's kind of what I'm saying, is like, if you really take what he's saying to be true, then you can't say the opposite either.
Right. You can't say what
didn't.
If you can't say what contributed to what, you can't say it didn't contribute.
Yeah. So it makes everything inextricable.
Yeah, because of all those factors, like none of those things that did conspire like would have conspired had there not been some game plan.
Hmm.
Like if there had been other plans, something else would have happened. But it would have happened out of those orders.
Yeah, it strikes me that his arguments specifically about the military, the war, the telling of the war, the interpretation of military genius, this one soapbox that he likes getting on, not all of the others. But this one seems kind of reactionary. Like it really speaks to the other presumptions that Napoleon is the only one. So is the like cause of everything. Like it's reacting, it's not like here's how I think of everything. It's more like that's not how it's just very it's reactionary to a very specific way of approaching things.
Yeah. It's saying that basically how everyone thinks of war in history, it's actually the opposite.
Right.
But taking that kind of position, you're putting yourself in the same corner that they are in. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that like what he's saying is no truer than what he's responding to.
Yeah.
Especially if he's right. Sorry, I don't know if this is making anyone else crazy.
Wait. This isn't simple to get, by the way. So I think it's okay that our heads are hurting over this. Yeah, it seems to me like everything is linked, and if there is no causality necessarily, then by definition, then
There's no
it matters. It matters like enormously, actually, what
every
does happen.
Yes, what
orders there are.
Yeah. I think my brain broke, but like these are they're good points. And again, I'm only talking about his military soapbox, not about what he has to say of the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
They're good points, but only if you happen to already think the other thing. Because if you're actually like, I don't know, like, yeah, I'm sure Napoleon had some say in it, and I know that the transport soldiers did, and everyone has their part to play. And I think this is specifically true in some, like, it's more true in our industry than anything else. Like, if you think that we can function with a director but without lights, then you're a dongle.
Right.
And if you think that we only need a producer but no editor, you're a dongle. Like, I don't know who actually thinks you only need Napoleon. And if you do, then this is a fabulous response. But like, if you don't, and if you have some vague appreciation that like everything happens as a matter of a confluence of factors and like a whole, that things happen, like how they say about how each person is just the most like biologically unlikely happening.
Right. Yeah.
Because you are the product of like so many different combinations going the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, you know.
Yeah, isn't it like there's a 1 in 40 million chance that you
exist.
That you're you. Yeah.
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 And where was I going with that? Oh shit.
So confluence. This just always feels about confluence is the word. So all of those things that like transpired to have that happen.
Yeah. So if you have any appreciation for that,
yeah,
then this seems like almost an extreme perspective to say that there's no way to even enumerate all the factors that went into the confluence. But I'm broken.
Right, but you have to point out something.
Otherwise, what's the point of even talking?
Otherwise, like I understand it, but then right. Then how do you tell the story? How do you tell any story? unless you focus on certain key things and go like this and this and this and this, and you can't tell a story.
Also, yes.
And I mean like any story.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, I don't know how this chili got made. Who's to say? Who's to say? Like, if those beans hadn't been grown, then would this chili be on this? But if you want to recreate chili, a recipe is good to have. And it tends to create a similar dish.
Right. Also, if he really was interested in doing, I'm back to talking shit literally one day later. If he was so interested in doing what he says he was interested in doing, then why are there not more perspectives that are like transport soldiers? Why are there not more transport soldiers in this book? That's actually like a question that I'm actually genuinely confused about. Because yeah, it is a book about the aristocracy. It's a book about certain phenomena, cultural phenomena occurring, and how they interface with history and how history informed them and they informed history.
Yeah. How do you think he views the lower class?
It's difficult to say because it seems to
me
me
kind of seem, and I don't know if it's intentional and if it's intentionally like a projection of the characters. It seems like they're stupid, drunk, and lazy.
which so are the rich people.
That's true.
I think he thinks everyone is stupid, drunk, and lazy. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think he has a theoretical appreciation the same way Andrew has a theoretical appreciation.
Yeah.
But that is maybe not the same thing. Because if you were going to put your money where your mouth is as a writer, and if you strongly believe in these ideas that like your story should not be about Napoleon, maybe in order to tell the story of the Napoleonic Wars, then like maybe he should have gotten a little more diverse with his.
I don't know. Maybe there's like
with his character points of view.
Maybe you bring the point about through the hypocrisy of what you're writing.
Right. That's possible for sure.
Like maybe it's exactly that you can't actually tell the story from up high.
You can.
You can't.
Right. So then I guess I wish we would just down. Well, then we should be down more often. No?
But history isn't written. Like history isn't written by the soldiers. You know?
Totally.
So in that way, it's like mirroring it.
By the way, this kind of thing always makes me wonder if we are now exploring the mind of the reader rather than the writer. Because remember that you've said several times, like, I don't know if I'm making excuses for him. Yeah. And in some ways, that I think is always true. And maybe just like however many different ways of looking at it and different, like, I don't know who that's a reflection of, him or you.
Yeah.
And it's probably not possible to know. And because one of the reasons I used to think Shakespeare was good was because of the numerous different ways, things you can pull out of it, which I think is true. I think that's a common belief that like good plays, you can mine them for eternity. Yeah. And there will always be new things come up.
To me, that means there's something real in it. Because otherwise it would just be flat, you know? It would be what it looks like.
But I guess, yeah, I do just occasionally wonder, like, whether it's even possible to separate the reader or the interpreter from the thing. What time is it? Do you want to read one more?
It's 9:09.
How long is this one?
Let's read one more. 6 pages.
Okay. Chapter 29. Eons from the end. On returning, I'm just decisively reading. Because I was like, who's gonna read? And then I was like, maybe if I take a loud breath.
Oh, okay.
That's what that was. On returning from a second inspection of the lines, Napoleon remarked,
"The chessmen are set up. The game will begin tomorrow."
That dick. Having ordered punch and summoned de Beausset, he began to talk to him about Paris and about some changes he meant to make in the Empress's household, surprising the prefect by his memory of minute details relating to the court.
He showed an interest in trifles, joked about de Beausset's love of travel, and chatted carelessly, as a famous self-confident surgeon who knows his job does when turning up his sleeves and putting on his apron, while a patient is being strapped to the operating table. The matter is in my hands. It is clear and definite in my head. When the time comes to set to work, I shall do it as no one else could, but now I can jest. And the more I jest and the calmer I am, the more tranquil and confident you ought to be, and the more amazed at my genius.
That's right. He's doing fixed mindset on people. He's like, yep, this is what it looks like to be great. Having finished his second glass of punch, Napoleon went to rest before the serious business which he considered awaited him the next day. He was so much interested in that task that he was unable to sleep, and in spite of his cold, which had grown worse from the dampness of the evening, he went into the large division of the tent at 3 o'clock in the morning, loudly blowing his nose. He asked whether the Russians had not withdrawn, and was told that the enemy's fires were still in the same places. He nodded approval.
Maybe don't have punch if you're sick. Maybe that's why you lost the war.
Well, what do you second glass do? Like he's getting wasted right before the...
No historians argue about that. The adjutant in attendance came into the tent.
Well, Rapp, do you think we shall do good business today? Napoleon asked him.
Without doubt, sire, replied Rapp.
Napoleon looked at him.
Do you remember, sire, what you did me the honor to say at Smolensk? Continued Rapp. The wine is drawn and must be drunk.
Good one. Napoleon frowned and sat silent for a long time, leaning his head on his hand.
This poor army, he suddenly remarked. It has diminished greatly since Smolensk. Fortune is frankly a courtesan, Rapp. I have always said so. And I am beginning to experience it. But the guards, Rapp, the guards are intact, he remarked interrogatively.
Yes, sire, replied Rapp.
Napoleon took a lozenge.
Recall that? They had it?
I'm actually like, they did? They had lozenges back then?
It's really just like a lump of zinc.
Just a penny.
A lozenge, please.
Put it in his mouth and glanced at his watch. He was not sleepy, and it was still not nearly morning. It was impossible to give further orders for the sake of killing time, for the orders had all been given, and were now being executed.
Have the biscuits and rice been served out to the regiments of the guards? Asked Napoleon stonily.
Yes, sire.
The rice too?
Yes, where's the rice? Rapp replied that he had given the emperor's order about the rice, but Napoleon shook his head in dissatisfaction as if not believing that his order had been executed. An attendant came in with punch.
Whoa.
Napoleon ordered another glass to be brought for Rapp and silently sipped his own.
I have neither taste nor smell, he remarked, sniffling at the glass. This cold is tiresome. They talk about medicine. What is the good of medicine when it can't cure a cold? Corvisar gave me these lozenges, but they don't help at all. Yes, sire. Put this in your mouth. What can doctors cure? One can't cure anything. Our body is a machine for living. It is organized for that. It is its nature. Let life go on it, unhindered. Let life go on in it, unhindered. And let it defend itself. This is the point of the pleasure trap. It will do more than if you paralyze it by encumbering it. He hates medicine. Remember how much he
really
talked
does.
about doctors?
Oh, yeah.
It will do.
Killed him.
Let's look it up. It will do more than if you paralyze it by encumbering it with remedies. Our body is like a perfect watch that should go for a certain time. The watchmaker cannot open it. He can only adjust it by fumbling. And I'm pretty sure watchmakers do open watches, but okay. You can only adjust it by fumbling, and that blindfold. Yes, our body is just a machine for living, that is all.
And having entered on the path of definition of which he was fond, Napoleon.
He just likes to define things. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Oh, I see that. He just likes.
He's like, here's what this is.
He plants his flag everywhere.
I like that about him.
Napoleon suddenly and unexpectedly gave a new one.
Ooh. Do you know, Rap, what military art is? Asked he. It is the art of being stronger than the enemy at a given moment. That is all.
Rat made no reply.
Dumbstruck. Tomorrow we shall have to deal with Kutuzov, said Napoleon. We shall see. Do you remember at Braunau, he commanded an army for 3 weeks and did not once mount a horse to inspect his entrenchments? Oh, we shall see.
He looked at his watch. It was still only 4 o'clock.
He's like killing
it's like
time.
Christmas morning for him. He did not feel sleepy. The punch was finished, and there was still nothing to do. He rose, walked to and fro, put on a warm overcoat and a hat, and went out of the tent. The night was dark and damp. A scarcely perceptible moisture was descending from above. Nearby, the campfires were dimly burning among the French guards, and in the distance, those of the Russian line shone through the smoke. The weather was calm, and the rustle and tramp of the French troops already beginning to move to take up their positions was clearly audible.
Napoleon walked about in front of his tent, looked at the fires and listened to these sounds. And as he was passing a tall guardsman in a shaggy cap who was standing sentinel before his tent and had drawn himself up like a black pillar at the sight of the emperor, Napoleon stopped in front of him.
What year did you enter the service? He asked with that affectation of military bluntness and geniality with which he always addressed the soldiers.
The man answered the question.
Ah, one of the old ones. Has your regiment had its rice?
It has, Your Majesty.
Napoleon nodded and walked away.
At 5:30, Napoleon rode to the village of Shevardino.
It was growing light. The sky was clearing. Only a single cloud lay in the east. The abandoned campfires were burning themselves out in the faint morning light.
On the right, a single deep report of a cannon resounded and died away in the prevailing silence. Some minutes passed. A second and a third report shook the air, then a fourth and a fifth boomed solemnly nearby on the right.
The first shots had not yet ceased to reverberate before others rang out, and yet more were heard mingling with and overtaking one another.
Napoleon, with his suite, rode up to the Shevardino redoubt where he dismounted. The game had begun. The game. The game.
Le jeu. Or as we say sometimes, le jeu se commence.
That was for you. The one French person who's been sticking to
I think that's intentional too. Of just like throwing in French sentences because that's what the Russian populace does.
I don't know.
Is it all? But wait. Is it all intentional? And it's all like all of our reactions he's eliciting. But then, to his point, it's Tolstoy did not write the story. Tolstoy did not have us have any impression about this book.
He didn't write it.
We're writing it in our minds as we read it.
Whoever built this Kindle, they wrote it. Whoever came up with the number 13, they wrote it. The first Natasha, she wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
You know who wrote this book?
Mm-hmm.
Napoleon. Imagine if you gave credit for War and Peace to Napoleon. Do you think Tolstoy would love it?
I think he would.
I think he would too. War and Peace by Napoleon Bonaparte.
Buonaparte.
Buonaparte.
I remember when I was like
Yes.
Wait, who's Bonaparte?
You
We keep talking about Napoleon, but who's this Bonaparte?
were like, oh, they're the same.
Ah, that's his
Napoleon
last
And
name.
Bonaparte. Oh my god, that was so confusing. As if there aren't enough things to be confused about.
Yeah.
In War and Peace.
I'm really glad we got that out of the way, actually, because at this point, that would be gnarly. I was like, who's this other general?
You know what? I feel like these two are competing for primacy of the French novels. Yeah, I think my mother, like 2 days later, wrote me a text being like, they're the same person. And I was like,
Yeah, we figured.
yeah.
She got it.
I think they think she got it. It's begun. This feels like actually the start of the war. Even though
Yeah.
we've been in war like multiple times.
But not in Russia.
Not in Father Russia.
Or mother, why is it father? It doesn't have to do with who the monarchy is.
I don't know, because this whole time it's been father, except for one time someone said mother, but then right after that, they referred to it as the fatherland.
I know. Mostly it's been fatherland. Why is it fatherland and not motherland? Who decides these things? Are there other
Napoleon
Are there
does.
other fatherlands, motherlands?
Yeah.
Like other countries?
Every land is yeah.
What's America?
Every land is some parent land. Imagine if there was someone who was like, yes, Austria, the parent land.
The parent land.
That'd be something that like Swiss would do. Or the Dutch.
The surrogate motherland.
Moneyland.
Motherland. Like, I'm trying to think if you still call England mother. Do you call England the motherland?
Anywhere that's your motherland is the motherland. Okay. Just forget
Anyway, okay, I need to stop thinking about this.
I do think we should talk about it more.
Great.
I agree.
Yeah?
Chapter 30.
I thought we were stopping.
No, I know. I'm just noting where we're stopping.
Oh, okay.
Jeez.
I was like,
Jeez.
no! I have to go moisturize my legs. I don't know.
You do?
No, I already did it.
There's so much to do. Oh, you already did it. Nice. What are you doing, that hemps stuff?
Yeah, my hemps.
Hemps.
But yo, it like goes quickly.
Does it? A little does not go a long way?
It does not.
A lot goes a long way. A little goes a
I
little way.
like how quickly it absorbs.
Important.
So wait, okay, before we end, I just want to say, you know how like you're like, I've been looking up and like buying stupid, weird things. I think I might have found a stupider, weirdest thing that I really want to buy.
What is it?
It's called Jazzercise.
What?
I think I want to buy it.
What is it?
It's a squishy that you put in your mouth and you go out like this. And it exercises your jaw.
What?
So that you define your jawline.
Are you fucking serious right now? Yeah. Are you really gonna buy this?
Yeah.
How much does it cost? Because I have a pair of socks I'm not using.
It's only $40.
I'm so excited.
I mean, I probably could just like get some really strong taffy.
Don't you grind your teeth at night?
Yeah, apparently.
How is that not jazzercising?
Because that's like this. This would. I don't know.
Why don't you eat more?
Eat more? I'd have to eat hard foods.
Why don't you eat harder?
Like it even has like beginner, so it like starts off with like a softer consistency.
Wait, the same thing changes consistency, or it's you graduate to different?
You graduate, so you can get like the full pack, which I think is like $80 or something, and it has beginner, intermediate, and advanced.
I think this is the
Childhood
single
facts.
stupidest. I think you're right. I think this is the single most absurd thing I think I've ever heard.
Works.
I would be thrilled.
What if like no more chin? No more
I
like
mean, more chin.
I think I have like little folds. I think it kind of flaps. Like
Oh my god, I'm really excited. Did you order it?
no, not yet.
Oh my god.
It's in my cart.
Well, what isn't in my car?
Seriously.
This is so good. I want to look it up. I thought you were. I do believe that expensive high tech composter. I kind of don't.
That it works?
In like 6 hours, turns food into stuff that you can just go like this into the garden with. Like that lady was like,
6 hours? I don't know. Did there maybe?
I didn't look into it too much because I was
Yeah.
like,
Did you read the reviews?
no, but I didn't. I wasn't like considering it seriously because it seems kind of insane.
Yeah.
Considering how simple.
Yeah, I think it's over complicated
Yes.
something.
But I do sort of like the idea of not just like waiting for something to decompose.
Are you gonna be like,
No, that's where the worms come in.
and so you want the worms?
I don't know. I'm just saying I like the idea of speeding this shit up a bit. But that seems insane to me. Also, because I'm like, how does that? I don't even.
I don't know how that would happen. What is it doing?
Maybe it's like blasting oxygen at it or something.
How much was it?
Again, like I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really considering it, I didn't.
I'm trying to think how quickly things decompose. I think like in the summer, in this weather, you'd be
But then
okay.
stuff's gonna smell. It's gonna stink. But if the worms quickly eat it, then it's gonna be like processed. I was with Dan once at the farmer's market, like one of the 3 times that I saw him recently. And he fully bought worms, and I remember being like, I have no idea what that's for.
Wow.
There's a
You just
worm
bought
person
Whoa.
at this farmer's market.
That's so crazy, okay.
And I remember being like, I'm just gonna bookmark this because I don't know what's happening, but I'm not gonna find out right now. There's a woman.
Women.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of worms, I have to say.
Oh, no. No.
Yeah. Are you?
No.
No. I just wanted that to happen one more time.
I told you, right, how there was this one, I used to work at this cafe, and there was this one day that, like, I had been left in charge of the cafe, and so, like, I had to get all the trash out, which was kind of, like, and, like, I think, like, because there's, like, Saint Jean Baptiste Day, this is in Quebec, and then there's Canada Day, and so, like, we had missed a few trash days, and so I had to take out all the trash, and I remember like taking it out back and taking this big, heavy, like, especially when you work at a cafe, like the trash bags are so heavy because it's just full of coffee grounds, and the bag tore, and it was full of maggots.
I remember this.
And then I had to like pick up, like scoop up the garbage because I couldn't just like leave it there in the driveway. I had to like scoop up the garbage.
What did you do?
And get it back in. I forget. It was the worst day of my life.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm very freaked out by worms. But they have ones that are like apartment buildings that you use in apartment buildings. It's like they're ones that you can like put under your bed. And I was like, with worms in it. Compost.
Under your bed?
People don't have a lot of space. What if you need to compost and you live in a very tiny place?
Windows.
I by accidentally
don't.
looked up compost toilets
Oh.
because it was one of those things that like automatically filled in.
Yeah.
It's because I was like no smell compost, something like that.
Okay.
And then I turned up a search that was like a populated search with compost toilets. And I was like, oh no, this is not what I meant. But my God, there's a lot of morals. Hmm. I guess it's like a tiny house thing. I don't know. I was like, I'd have to be really into the environment. Although, maybe there's something comforting about the fact that it'll never like, if you have like a sewer problem, then what? You know, like if something happens with a regular system, that's like terrifying. But like, what's the worst that can happen with a compost toilet? Like there's something built in already. It's like
That's true.
self-contained.
Yeah.
So it's almost less scary in some ways. I don't know. That's a very funny look. You know,
I think I just realized that everyone poops.
are you serious?
No, but I don't know. I was like thinking about like the fact that like, yeah, we like poop and like it turns into compost. We're worms.
We are worms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a human centipede?
No, I have not.
Okay, me neither. We are worms.
Yeah. Now we've like done a very good job of like hiding it away.
Oh yeah.
But like, come on.
I think it's so stupid how much energy we spend hiding it away.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I really do. Like, what a waste of energy, honestly.
Yeah.
And way to like, it's like it's a petri dish for shame. Do you know what I mean? It's
That's
just
what
like,
I was just thinking. It's like, of course we're all ashamed. Of course we are. Because at every level we're like trying to cover up like the smells and the it's like no, we don't actually have bodies.
Even though literally everybody has a body. It's a kid's book. Everyone poops. It's a really popular one.
Gotta read that. Gotta get that on Audible.
Ishan is in such a funny like struggle with body training.
Yeah.
I suddenly feel like I don't want to say anything more about it because what if he grows up and watches this? There's like, you discuss my body training.
That'd be so strange. If he grows up and one day his professors give him War and Peace to study, and he's like, wait a second. I don't have to read War and Peace. That will take so long. Instead, let me binge watch my aunt's YouTube channel. That will take much longer to get through.
Listen, but it'll think of how close we'll be.
That's true.
This is gonna bring us together. I'm talking to him.
Okay.
Because he's now on episode
How old is he?
73.
How old is he?
Depends on if he was in AP English. I don't know. It's not. When do people read this book?
Like 11?
No, not my dad. When do like most people read this book?
Normal people. I think like really serious, moody teenagers read it.
Yeah.
Or try to.
But like, were you even moody enough
Like
to read it?
15. I read Anna.
Hmm.
I think more men gravitate towards this book personally.
What was Anna Karenina like?
I do not remember.
Nothing.
Not like this. Maybe it was like this. I don't remember.
That's okay.
I really don't. It was very emotional. Very dramatic.
Yesterday you were like, we might finish this before quarantine ends.
Mm-hmm.
I think this shit is gonna go in summer.
Is Atlanta out of quarantine?
You know what's the fucking worst? I was driving somewhere and I passed a massage place and I was like, oh my god, remember that being a thing? And then I was like, you know what sucks? Is that even when they ease the
Yeah.
recommendations, I'm still not gonna feel comfortable. And who's like most like a lot of people aren't going to because it'll just mean that a lot of people suddenly rush to certain types of places and that's going to spur everything again.
I don't know if it's gonna be like that. That everyone rushes. I can see like this being lifted, and I don't know if I'd really trust it or believe it. I think I would
I know,
like
but
dip my toes back in very slowly.
someone's going to rush, you don't think?
I guess some people, yeah. I don't know. Like this isn't gonna be a thing that it's like it's over,
No.
because that's not the nature of this.
I guess what I was thinking is it possible to lift the things without there being a spike? And I almost like, I'm not sure if that's even possible or if the moment it happens, there will, by mathematical necessity, be a spike.
Do you think there's like a possibility where things will be lifted, but like still with some uh,
Yes.
cautionary, like
Yes, and I think they will
steps?
have to do that because it doesn't make nothing makes other like the other options don't make sense.
Yeah.
Um, but even from like an economic perspective, like massage places are a good example. So are nail salons. People like badly need to work. They some of them work at places like that, and there will be like a economic at least push for like somebody to go get their stupid nails done.
Yo, you know what I was thinking?
Well,
I want a haircut so bad. Me too. And I was actually thinking of this, but like after if this is lifted, it's gonna be mayhem.
but that's kind of what I think about everywhere.
Yeah.
But then
Everyone's
is
gonna
that
be
gonna
like, "Here's my haircut." Yeah.
but is that gonna be a is there gonna be like a backlash to that? Because are people gonna be like, wait, everyone and their mother will be at the such and such place, and that is scary.
Unless like you, yeah, if there's like limited things within businesses, so it's like, okay, hair salons, like you can reopen, but only have this many people in the salon at a time.
It'll be a lot of work, but I think that's probably the smartest way to go.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe like there's a
So there'll be
maximum
lines.
capacity. Do you think people are gonna like go eat at restaurants again?
I don't know. I mean, I think everything will eventually happen again, but it's a really a matter of because then that means that even nail salons, I don't know why I keep saying nail salons or hair salons, but it's a certain type of business that's like important. It's a big segment of gyms. I can't even gyms. I don't.
So good. Yeah, like is everyone gonna rush back to the gym or
People are gonna want to.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess I don't know how people will manage wanting because I know everyone will want to rush back to everything.
Mhm.
So, but then that like how that actually plays out
Yeah.
will be interesting to see.
Mhm.
Because if they do like restrict numbers in hair salons and stuff like that, does that mean there's going to be like 6 foot lines the same outside every fucking kind of business, the same way they are outside of grocery stores right now?
I really hope not. I mean, hair salons, I would just think it's like you have to have an appointment. So it'll be kind of like trying to
Yes.
get an Amazon Prime delivery or an Amazon Fresh delivery. That's why I'm like, I kind of want, can it be like a wait list right now? Because I kind of want to add my name. Yeah. Maybe I should suggest that to your hair. Like, yeah. Because I definitely think it's gonna be a little bit chaotic.
You can totally cut your hair. At least like a trim, it's not going to be complicated. And if you keep it in like a certain margin of error, then even if it's a clusterfuck, you can get them to fix it eventually, and it won't be like, and you have no idea.
Like, I don't know how they're cutting it because when it's cut in layers, I can't see the layers that they've cut.
I know, but you just have to watch like 8 YouTube videos.
I guess so. I could.
Or frankly, you can just not do layers. You can just like cut a thing.
Just cut it across.
It depends on how badly you want it to cut.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that will be a cut, like all the ends will,
Yeah.
maybe not all of the ends, but a lot of them will be off.
That's true. I could, yeah, and then I just have to do it and be brave.
I think it's hard to do well, but I don't think basically it's that hard.
My brain.
And I wouldn't mind, look, you might be scared, but I wouldn't mind doing it if we watch like 5 videos or something. It can't, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
And again, it might not be the greatest haircut you've ever had, but it might fulfill the need.
The need.
Okay, dear Lord, what an epilogue this has been.
I'm gonna get my jazzercise on.
No.